All right, let's do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another Uper Cigar Garage Talks. How's everyone doing today? I'm doing pretty good. I'm actually doing very good, all things considered. The Cigar Garage Talks, you might have noticed I missed one of January's episodes. That's because for a good chunk of January, I was quite sick. Yes, I had the dreaded new variant hit. We'll get into that. What are we smoking tonight, huh? We're smoking the New World from AJ Ferez. A little short cigar, thin cigar. Not bad. A lot of pepper in this one, even though it's a Connecticut wrapper, which was surprising. For the drink, Escanaba Black Beer from the Upper Hand Brewing Company right here, Escanaba, Michigan. Had quite a few of theirs. Not bad. Don't mind them really. People talk about how they're like this golden beer brand, but I'm not sold on that just yet. There's the look of the beer there. Yep. Kind of remember, not a bad stout, but not one that's going to knock out any of my faves. And instead of the chocolate pudding bread, we have chocolate pudding mousse. A concoction my wife came up with, and I definitely approve. Goes great with a good cigar and a nice dark beer. We might be having a special guest here. We'll see if she shows or not. She had some college work that she had to get done, so we'll see what happens. But I wanted to get out. I wanted to record a video. Like I said, it's been almost 3 weeks. Which, if you guys have listened to a lot of my vlogs and whatnot, you know that I try to stay actually 2 to 3 weeks ahead, just in case something like this does happen. So I burned through pretty much all of that. Well, it didn't help. I was in the middle of a series. I have about 3 videos that are just kind of like filler video to throw in there. When you're doing a series, throwing in some filler video, this really doesn't work. It's one of the dangers of doing those series. So anyhow, like I was saying, we got the dreaded Omicron, right? Which was cool. We, just like a lot of people reported, didn't get hit as hard with this one. The cough and whatnot was nothing compared to the other cough. But I got hit with definitely the exhaustion this time. Where I was just taking a lot of naps. And it was kind of weird. It kind of had this like, we got hit, knew we got hit, got better for about a week. I actually went and played basketball with my daughter, helped her kind of practice and whatnot, and even went and traveled to some of her away games. And all right, welcome back. I'm actually over here. My wife is in the hot seat, the literal hot seat, because it's surrounded by a kerosene heater, a propane heater. She's got her coffee, and she got her very own chocolate pudding mousse that she made, so we can enjoy that together. She's not smoking a cigar, having a beer, unfortunately. One of these episodes will definitely get her to partake. So we're talking about Omicron tonight and how it affected us. I actually did take about 3 weeks off of making videos, so I'm now out of videos. So I wanted to record one so I can start getting a little bit ahead of the schedule. So why don't you explain your experience with the beer flu this time around? What did you experience?
Well, I don't think I remember last time we got, I guess, straight COVID. I remember a lot of aches and pains for like one day where I spent the entire day just hurting everywhere and in bed. But I've never had the sciatic pain down both of my legs that we had this time. And because I remember getting it once in a while when I was pregnant, like that sharp, just not ending pain. But this time, like I think I probably paced for 3 days or 4 days. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't stand. I couldn't lay down. I couldn't do anything without pain down my legs. And I was just like pacing to try to control it. And I couldn't even sleep because of it. So I think that was probably the worst part of it. My voice is still a little messed up from it. And I'm still a little bit congested, but it's nothing like it was. And I feel a lot better now. And the exhaustion. I don't like being tired. So
Yeah. Yeah, I was just explaining how I was exhausted. I actually took naps during the day and got winded and even got close to wondering if I should go to the hospital or not, but I hid that from you as a good, dutiful husband should.
that's funny. I was like, there were a couple of days where, because we couldn't eat, like we just weren't hungry, and like I still can't taste things correctly. So without being able to taste, food just doesn't have as much of an appeal. Like I made these, and I'm sure they probably taste delicious, but I can't. I get like a little bit of sweetness in the back of my throat, maybe, but I can't truly taste it yet. So
Yeah.
they're not. I mean, it's a good weight loss program.
I was going to say, I lost 16 pounds.
I think I lost 7.
See?
7 to 10 in the matter of, a week and a half, 2 weeks that we were really sick. And it's terrible because the kids were hardly sick at all, which is, I mean, I'm glad that they weren't sick, but like they had a headache one day, they couldn't sleep that night, and then the next day they pretty much just wanted to sleep, and then they were going and they were fine. And so we're sick trying to keep up with them, which is probably what made it
Worse. A lot worse, yeah.
Because we were, we got sick, and unlike the kids, we couldn't just lay down and sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, this has been going on, the pandemic now, for 3 years.
I still think it's only 2.
It's 2 years since we've been, just over 2 years that the state of Michigan has been in response. Globally, though, it's been 3 years. So we were kind of talking about this on a drive with schooling and the pandemic, and you don't really think your homeschooling was affected at all.
I don't think homeschooling in and of itself was affected, no. I think some of the outside stuff we do was, but homeschooling itself was not. I mean, actually, in some ways it was beneficially affected because ABC Mouse went for free, and so we had the kids doing ABC Mouse, and Adventure Academy was free, and actually the kids even talked about that, how all of a sudden we have all these online programs that are so fun and provide other different kinds of social interaction for them, which we never had in the past because we didn't pay for ABC Mouse. We didn't see a need for it, or Adventure Academy, and we also had there was a reading one, and that's when we started with My Academy, which we still use all the time now. But so as far as like homeschooling, core curriculum, all that stuff, it really didn't affect us. I mean, I ordered my curriculum a little sooner, but other than that, it didn't affect every day. The only thing it really affected was the extra stuff that we like to do, like co-ops and, park days and stuff like that, field trips. It affected that for sure. But it didn't affect our everyday school day.
Okay. So, I've kind of been, I should actually bring out the book. Maybe I'll post a little picture of the book right there. I was given a book. Now, as I've explained, I've been an emergency preparedness coordinator. Worked a lot in public health disaster preparedness. And I was given a book about, it was a bunch of news articles from the first pandemic, the 1918 Spanish flu. The news articles are from the Sault Ste. Marie area. And something I'm trying to push my kids and my family to do is we should write our own little memoirs of the pandemic. Because that book is an amazing resource to look at, to see, what was going on. There was a huge fight about masks. Should people be masked? Is it, one of the articles talked about this as Halloween 2.0. When they see people walking around with masks, and you had dissenting opinions, and you had people who were for it, people who were against it, and people who were willing to put their 2 cents in the paper. You had political unrest. You had war going on. You had soldiers coming home, just like we do now with Afghanistan. So one of the things I really want to do is try to put together a little memoir. And this is kind of that first step, really, when we're brainstorming. So let's say we fast forward 50 years. We have great grandbabies all around. And they ask you, grandma, great grandma, what's your memory from when you lived through the last pandemic? We're doing a paper in school. We need a story. So are you willing to share a story with us that you want to save for all posterity purposes?
Am I willing?
You have to. You have to share a story, and then I'll share one, and then you can share one. We'll just go back and forth a little bit.
A story of something. Now, is this supposed to be a fond thing about the pandemic or not?
It can be anything. It can be something historically that hit you. It can be a memory.
Well, because I don't really enjoy being out among a ton of people. Like, for me, that's just not actually something I like. So actually being home has been nice, and not feeling those social pressures of, hey, we need to go do this with these people, and we need to go to do this with so and so. It's nice to just be able to stay home and relax and not feel that pressure of taking the kids to this park to play with these people one day, and then going here to play with these, this group of people a different day. So I mean, there's definitely been some downsides to the pandemic, but the whole being able to stay home and not feel guilty about it has not been one for me. I think now, finally, 2 years into it, I'm kind of enjoying going back out among people again, but I even find that sometimes it gets overwhelming for me. I'm not a people person.
In case you didn't realize, she's the introvert of this relationship. I'm the extrovert. I mean, it has been nice to really focus on family. My kind of fun, I don't know if it's really fun, but I got to witness what was the train wreck coming. I really, especially when this first started and I got my laid off or fired from my job due to cutbacks because of COVID, I got to witness the bridge being out. I know what it's like for the little signaling boy. If you ever hear the story of the Paulding Light, that talks with the boy who knew one of the theories behind the Paulding Light is the boy who knew the bridge was out and was waving a signal light and got ran over by the train as he tried to stop it. That's one of the stories. I have that feeling with my pandemic story because I took a lot of training, tons and tons and tons of training in pandemics. And I could tell right away that there were people who, during the response in Michigan, very well trained, very well versed, but you could tell they were put in the back burner because stuff like mass quarantines, mass lockdowns, we know from history doesn't work. There's multiple studies and papers put out there, so when they started shutting stuff down, you really did. You got this. I got this sense of, okay, I know what's going to happen next. I know this isn't going to work. And we even talked about that a few times, where I tell you, I know what we're doing here. Where you shut down boating with motors. You can go in a canoe, a rowboat, a sailboat, but good Lord, if it's got a motor on there, that's illegal. Or
I'm sorry, every time you say that, the memes
pop up real quick. And shutting down the paint stores. Paint stores got shut down. Which, I mean, I'm sure there was logic at some level, but the problem is that really does put the wrong message out there, the winners and losers. And like I said, we had to study pandemics, and you saw the wrong mistakes being made, and you know that that it must be someone who has not taken so much training, and been involved in exercises to know what's going to happen, what's going to happen next. So that's been kind of my realization. My funny story is we knew what to do. We've been practicing this for, oh hell, since the 2000 is when the FEP program started in the nation, just after the 9/11 attacks. So for 20 years we've been practicing this, and you can tell that they took all that training, all that practice, and they chucked it by the wayside. Of course, I got involved then. I was kind of called back into that FEP profession. So then I got to be the little boy hit by a train, and the fact that I was thrown in the middle of it, where I put my 2 cents in and was told, well, that's a good idea, but we're going to do this instead. So being a part of the response was, not the one I wanted, which was, tell the crew what I wanted to do. My being the sniper on the hill, as your dad puts it.
Yeah.
So I tried to jump on the rig, and I think, had things not happened, a little bit of a family emergency happen where my lovely wife had to pack up and had to take care of family. But had she not, I'm pretty sure I would have been on the ambulance this entire time. You can almost guarantee it. So, what's one story you hope the kids remember?
Oh, I hope the kids remember. Oh. Well, probably all the time we spent together doing fun stuff. I mean, we did a lot of new things. I mean, as soon as we realized that this was not going to go away, we started to, I don't want to say collect things, but we took on new hobbies. So as a family, we started playing badminton. As a family, we started doing catch and baseball. And I think that's probably why Savannah got into basketball. Like she got into the whole physical.
The Swedish compass.
Yes, Swedish compass. She got into the whole physical, going out and doing things and stuff. So I do think that they'll probably remember that fondly. Like that, we spent a lot of time with mom and dad. Dad worked from home. Mom worked from home. We got to do, we got to do things that we probably would not have had time for. And dad wouldn't have been able to do things in the middle of the afternoon, like, take his lunch break and spend it outside in the sunshine with us. I mean, we took up riding bicycles. All the kids ride bikes now. I mean, so I think they will remember all of that fondly. I know that social interactions being what they are, that's kind of been challenging for them. But I don't think that they will feel like they missed out that much. Because we did still make time for that. It was just a lot harder and maybe a little bit more awkward.
I'm hoping they remember the apocalyptic Fridays fondly. I did, well, when my wife was off caring for family members, the kids definitely needed some sort of consistency. They were having a real hard time. Although I've taken care of the kids before, this is nothing new. It's not like I was thrown into being Mr. Dad, and I'd never done that before. I've taken care of the kids before.
True, but I don't think I've ever been gone for a night until that happened.
You had, and there were definitely times in our relationship where you were out of commission.
Well, yeah.
Due to illness. But yeah, it was, they definitely started to get a little antsy, so Dad did Apocalyptic Fridays, which at the time I did it, it was unironically that I was doing it. Now with what's going on in the 2 years, 18 months since I did the first Apocalyptic Friday, it was less ironically and more this could actually maybe help the family.
Well, but at the time it was connected to a book series that the kids enjoyed.
It was.
So it was connected to the Last Kids on Earth book series, which has like 7 books
7
now.
or 8 books now.
And it's a hilarious little series about kids who end up in a monster apocalypse. And they have to survive alone because their parents are not around. Either one of them's an orphan, and
Yeah, one's an orphan who's living with a foster family that abandons him. And then you have one where all the rest have parents, but somehow they got separated.
Like the parents were already gone when it happened.
One was trapped in the school.
Yeah.
And couldn't get back to their mom and dad. I forget how.
Dirk.
No, Dirk. It sounds like his dad was maybe just a absentee father. Like he might have traveled.
Yeah, but where did he go when he like got lost?
Yeah.
Because Dirk has a sister. Anyway.
Yeah.
So the series is about these kids surviving, and so they started, and this was the monster apocalypse, and the series has these feats of
apocalyptic
success. Yes. So the Apocalyptic Fridays was really connected to the book.
It was, because they were even called feats of apocalyptic success. Is what I named them. We did everything from fire starting to disaster food to shooting, signaling and communication. We got to break out the CB.
Oh, zombie. You guys had zombie shooting. Right?
Zombie shooting, yeah. We did some zombie targets.
What was it? Slingshots.
Air rifle. I can't remember what else I know we had another theme day that the kids got to do. Like I said, it was kind of an ironic thing to do, and then we did it again. It was very unironic. It's the stuff we want our kids to know, because it is still turbulent times right now. We are still staring down at a lot of unrest and a lot of uncertainty. We even talked about it. Currently, we don't have to go into the specific news that's going on right now, but there's definitely still a lot of unrest. Insecurity going on. We didn't run out of toilet paper. I think that's something I want the kids to remember, that like I've talked about in many videos, I do a lot of farm prepping. So having, again, not doomsday prepping. It's not like we have freeze-dried toilet paper.
This is why we actually kept the chickens for the winter, too. For the first 2 years now, we've done winter chickens.
Yeah, we wintered chickens. This is the second year we've wintered chickens, and that does have a part to play in it. As far as
I like doing it because then you don't have to spend the entire spring waiting for eggs. But it is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work to winter these chickens. We're still getting a fox show up. Our 2 daughters actually went and set a bunch of fox traps with grapefruit. Apparently, grapefruit and jam is the magic.
They're going to catch
lure.
it with the most random thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But no, that's my biggest one. I hope they remember the Apocalyptic Fridays, and when they're older, and we can kind of share with them, stuff like the fact that Dad did buy a bunch of extra toilet paper. We just had it on hand. So we were one of the few families that didn't run out, that wasn't using baby wipes or bidets, or we had one of our friends actually installed a bidet in their house because they could find the bidet, they couldn't find the toilet paper.
Well, you can't criticize that. I mean, one of the houses we lived in
had a bidet. We did have a bidet once. Did you ever use the bidet?
No, I don't think I did.
Missing out.
I remember children using it. Every child under the age of 3 that visited our house sprayed themselves in the face with that bidet.
Yep.
So I was a little concerned, but funny each time.
So what's one story we're going to save for all posterity here on the internet that you do not want the kids to remember?
That I do not want the kids to remember. I don't necessarily know if I don't want them to remember this one, but the whole churches being closed. Like, to me, that's horrific. The one thing that it should always be there for you is the church. And you know, during the Black Death or the Black Plague in England, the churches didn't close. It was the monks and stuff that took care of the sick. And so the fact that the Catholic churches closed, and I mean closed. You couldn't even go in to pray for a while, and then we could go in to pray, but we couldn't go to mass. I mean, that's, to me, that is the most traumatizing thing, maybe, that we couldn't actually go into our house of worship, our house of God, and be with God. Like,
Yeah.
we weren't, like, at some point it was like we weren't even welcome, especially because we had young children. And to me, that is the worst experience I think of this pandemic. Is, I don't want to say it's a lack of faith, because I didn't lose faith in God, but I really lost a lot of, maybe some of my respect for the practices of the church when they did that. Because to me, that's, I mean, you're denying people communion, you were denying people that comfort in this time of actual, like, people need that comfort. And so for me, I think that was probably the one thing. I don't know if I don't want the kids to remember it, because it's a big deal, but to me it is possibly one of the worst things that happened.
Well, we even switched churches because of it. Because of what the church we were going to had such, I call it prison communion. We had these big plexiglass shields with these little windows you couldn't put your hand through. You put your hand through and you got deposited a Eucharist. And it was horrifying to see that, because it reminded me of my time responding to the prisons. And especially communion, that's not supposed to be that's a very intimate, very close, very...
You're supposed to be connected. It's sharing that communion with the entire parish family, and you're literally facing through glass, and then you have to move your mask to consume the communion
and put it right back.
And put it right back
on.
And I think that has probably been eye-opening and terrifying. Like, I hope I hope that doesn't sink in to the level that it did for me.
Yeah.
Because the church should always be there. And, like, I don't even think, for a while, I don't think the priests were even, like, allowed to do last rites and stuff.
No last rites, no funerals.
And that's terrible. Like, especially... Now, I don't know how other religions or other churches necessarily dealt with the pandemic, because we're Catholic. So I don't know how that happened, but I mean, that is a huge tenet of our faith. It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And to have that literally taken away, and not taken away by the state, oddly enough, or by
the state restricted it too.
But,
they restricted it a bit.
The church made that choice too, though. And the church chose to, like, end communion and the holy water not being available. It was so hard, I guess. And even now, it's hard. The holy water's not available.
Yep.
I mean, masks in church, I can understand for some people. But the whole feel has changed.
Mm-hmm. When we went back, they opened mass up, because we have so many kids, we were looked at as leopards almost. I mean, we took up 2 pews.
Because they wouldn't let you sit with your entire family if you took up more than 4 feet of the pew. Yeah. So you had to sit in 2 pews, and then those 2 pews had to be with a pew in between them, like, because we were in the same car, we weren't all of a sudden breathing the same air. And then, of course, I feel bad for the cleaning people, because then they have to clean an extra entire pew just because of one family.
Yeah, and we tried to find some clandestine masses, and there was no clandestine masses that we could find. At least none of the priests were willing to invite us. Well, we did have one, but we'd have to drive 3 hours to go, and it was I believe prohibition was easier to find a speakeasy than it was to find a priest who would
But you can't entirely blame them. I mean, that wasn't just the state saying no mass. I mean, that's the bishops
It was
and
the
the
bishops and the Pope
archbishops and the
and
Pope. So, I mean, that is a very serious.
well, and apparently one in our diocese actually got defrocked because he held mass.
Really?
Yeah, there was one younger priest. They're trying to get him back, but he thumbed his nose at the bishop and said, "Come and take take away my title." And
See, I have
he
to
did.
respect that, and then at the same time, I have to be like, okay, but, eh.
well, there's rumors there was more to that story, but the official reason
There probably was more.
he got defrocked. Well, apparently he was always against the bishop. There was
Oh,
a
well,
lot of
you
stuff
know.
he said against the bishop. So
Until now, there's been nothing that the bishop has done that I've been like, meh. But some of the things and some of the letters that went out and recommendations have just really kind of soured my stomach.
and again, not that you're not going to become you're turning away from Catholicism. It's just the people, not the church.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's not the church. It's some of the people and their decisions, and like even now we get such mixed messages. Well, we want you to come. We want you to do this. We want you to be involved with this, this, and this, and this, and this. But in the next breath, it's well, we have to close because of this. Well, we're not doing this. Well,
Don't do this activity.
don't do this. We don't want that many people in this room. We don't. So, I mean that, and they canceled things because of it. Like they had that big. One of the churches had a big Advent thing, and we went to it. And they actually canceled future events because so many people wanted to be involved and showed up to the church.
And they shut it down because they don't want that many people. Even their religious ed right now, I mean, I don't think it's normally that segmented where you have A days and B days and some kids show up here and others show up then. And
yeah, I don't know, because this is the first year we've had kids in the age group where we would actually know how that was ran. Because we've always had the younger kids, and now our kids are older. So I can't really say how that was done in the past, but I don't think it was so seldom.
Yeah. Well, like I showed you the one chart, it was eye-opening to me. There was a K through 12 chart, and when was the last time they had regular school?
Oh.
And some make sense. It's the seniors this year would have been in 9th grade, and the juniors was 8th. But then you get down to kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade have never known what real school is.
Without
masks and restrictions and A days and B days and online learning and offline learning. The whole. They don't know what normal is, and those are the kids I kind of fear for because.
Oh, I feel so bad for those families.
Yeah. Well, what do you do then? We just had our governor is demanding that everyone go to full-time school, back to normal, back to in-classroom only. She even hinted at possibly not making online illegal, but there could be consequences for schools staying online. You didn't hear about that one? Yeah, there's a big push right now from our govs.
Well, and it's confusing because it's so hypocritical. At first, it's like if you have 1 case or 2 cases or 3 cases of COVID, you have to shut the school down. And now, there's so many schools that have multiple cases of COVID, and it's just, just keep going, wearing masks.
Well, even some of these, like schools, prisons, nurses, they're actually advocating if you're not that sick, still come in.
Yeah.
I mean, the message was if you had, even when I worked online, when I had COVID, I let it slip that I've got COVID, and my boss said, well, why don't you take 2 weeks off? And I said, well, I'm a work from home position. Yeah, I'm coughing and hacking. I got to mute my mic during meetings, but I can still function in my job, no problem. We were shorthanded, like everyone was, of course. But yeah, me and my boss had a long conversation about, no, you need to take 2 weeks off because that's the rule. I did come to an agreement with her that I think I did take a 2 days. I think I took 48 hours off because then we had a holiday weekend or some crap like that, so it equaled out to 5, and I kind of lied about when I got it. And but yeah, even online, they're like, you should take 2 weeks off, and now you have the local prisons. If they are fever free, they are being told to come in, and they're being actually told to work overtime.
Wow.
Which is just kind of crazy in my mind, but
Well, it's such a switch because you think back to, was it last summer the kids did theater? And there was one kid in one part of the theater that was a certain age that was exposed to.
was exposed, not even sick.
Yeah.
During
I think
during the play, he tested positive the night after.
the night of the last play, maybe.
I
don't know.
think it was just
It
the
was-
day after he tested
It was
positive.
quick. And then 10 days later, we get a call saying that we have to quarantine for 14 days. And it's like, but it's already been 10 days. Nobody let us know anything.
Yeah.
And we've already, traveled downstate and done all these other things. And the health department, I think it was the health department. I don't know who it was. The contract tracing team was like, this is a matter of life and death. And calling us repeatedly. And I'm like, but you told us you didn't. By now, we should have been out of quarantine, and you're just now informing us of this potential exposure, and you want us to quarantine for 14 days now. This is 10 days after the potential exposure, and you want us to quarantine now.
Yep.
For 14 days. It doesn't make sense. And now they're like, well, if you're 24 hours or 48 hours without a fever, you're fine.
Yep, you're good to go.
And it's like, huh. So the question is then, was the information at the beginning wrong? Were they
Well, I mean, they're working off the best information they had. We now know more about COVID and what it is and what it isn't, and how it is and isn't spread. What does work and what doesn't work. And I'm sure we're going to learn more as time goes, because now we're basically being told that this is now basically like our, during the H1N1 pandemic that we had. We were just told this is going to be with us forever. You can still get H1N1, but it's just going to be part of our flora of viruses out there, and we'll get hit with it from time to time.
well, I can tell you, I don't want COVID again. What is this, the second time? Or is it
Second
third
time we've had it.
And I certainly don't want it again. The first time I was so sick, and I worked through it, and teaching online and muting my mic as I'm teaching English to foreign speakers. So how can you teach certain words when it just makes you cough to speak? But so I really don't want this again. But I don't know. There's so many things that I think we could learn from this. And I'm afraid that maybe a lot of people, or a lot of things, are just being ignored and not.
So what's one thing you learned during this pandemic? That might be a fun little...
Well, okay. So I think children, and I mean this in general, not just our children, but I think in general, children learn to be more cautious and to actually respect personal boundaries better. Before the pandemic, I can't tell you how many times random kids would run up and hug one of our kids on the park that they just met. Apparently your cigar.
Apparently my cigar set off. I have a brand new fire detector. We're not on fire. Hold on.
That is loud though. So, I think kids learn more about respecting boundaries. I think maybe it went a little far. As we talked about, we'd go to a park or a playground, and our kids and pretty much everybody who was there, they played with only the people who had been in their car. So you might go to a playground and there might be 25 kids there, but none of them are interacting with anybody they don't live with, which was odd in so many ways. But they did learn to, the importance of hand washing and, personal space and not putting their hands in their mouths, although that is not perfect with our kids, especially our youngest ones.
I remember that's one fun story I'll share. So here we are in the midst of a pandemic. Stuff had finally started to open up, and we were allowed to take our children into a local, a national brand hardware store, lumber store, home improvement We did do a lot of projects, home improvement projects, while during the pandemic, since Dad was home, and we had some extra dollars floating around, thank God. So here we are, we're masked up, we're, hand sanitizer, people are looking at us because we've got these kids out. We lectured the kids too about being safe, about, you gotta
Keeping their masks
keep your masks on. Our 3-year-old actually was the champ. She kept her mask on.
It's
but
amazing
slipped
because
down.
she was only 1 when this all started,
When this
right?
started, she was
One and a
about
half.
1.5, about 18 months old.
And she's always been good about it.
And so here we have my next oldest, who was about 3-4 years old. In the middle, we have him in the cart because we didn't want him touching stuff and scaring people. And he thought it was really cool to rub his lips all around the cart.
He's wearing a mask.
Wearing a mask, but he put, it feels cool, he said, to put his mouth on the cart. And as he pulls his face up, the mask is just caked with dirt and filth.
All right, and the worst part was, so for Sunday, for church, one of our daughters made her first communion. And so, kind of to be special, because it was awkward to have to wear a mask anyway, I made special white masks for the entire family. The girls had kind of lacy masks on top of the white fabric, but the boys had just plain white masks that were like cotton and double layer and all that. And so it's a white mask, and I mean those stains are still on the mask.
Yeah, they're still on the masks.
So that was gross.
Yeah, to caveat this, the story went into swore they wiped every cart, every inch of it got wiped down and sprayed before it was put in the cart corral. Well, clearly, it was not, because
we got one that wasn't.
yeah, we must have got one that's not. So,
and so many things have stopped being a staple. Like, I remember going to Lowe's or Menards and those carts where little kids could get in and pretend they were driving and honk the horn. That used to be a thing. Like, from the time our oldest were 2 years old. Like, that was a thing. We'd go into the store and they would want in that cart. Our 2 younger ones, those carts haven't existed
right, we haven't seen them again.
And so the kids are like, that's not a thing anymore. Which is kind of sad. But, I mean, kind of easier.
Yeah, makes it easier. I am liking not walking into stores now and you don't smell the disinfectant and your eyes start watering. And, I think we went to Walmart and one of the hardware stores, and there's so much cleaner. I started coughing, and I was wondering if we got the Ronas, a super fast spreading something, because I was hacking up a lung. And then it dawned on me that we got hit with a bunch of cleaner.
Well, and then of course my allergies are really bad, and so I'll be walking through a store, and if I walk through like a smelly aisle, like the candles or something, my eyes water and I start to kind of cough, and it's harder for me to breathe, especially when we had to wear masks. And you get such evil looks, and there's nothing I was like, I wasn't sick at all, but like I can't control my response to allergens. So
right.
I will not miss the evil looks just trying to take the children in to get new shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, you can't buy shoes online all the time. You really do have to size some of those things.
I honestly, so it's saved for all posterity. My funniest thing is remember seeing hired security companies that would sit outside Walmart and outside all the big box stores.
To make sure you had a mask on.
Make sure you had a mask on. They get in your way. They count who it was. Is this person under 16? Is this person, how many people are coming? You got 6, 8 of you coming in. Okay, well that brings our total store up to 200.
Like going into the GameStop, who had like a 4-person max or 6-person.
I think it was a six-person max. We had to have two of our kids sit outside while we went in, and some were pretty cool with it. I mean, it's one family worth in there, but most of them, they had to shut the door. Actually, we went to the GameStop. They actually had one of the employees stand by the door and
keep people out.
So I felt bad. I don't think we bought anything either when we went in there. We maxed them out and we didn't buy anything.
I think you got like. You re-upped like the game former something, I think the kids probably
maybe they
picked
bought
out
a game
or something.
But yeah, definitely for the 20 minutes we were in there, their sales took a hit. Which
it was so awkward too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think I have like a funny, I want to save this memory of the pandemic.
That's too bad.
I'm trying to think of one, and I mean, right before the pandemic, we bought the car, right?
Yep.
Just as the pandemic was really starting, is that when we bought the car?
It was still international.
Because
when
I
we
knew
bought the
about it
car,
when
yeah.
we went in because of my students in China.
Yep, but we
But
didn't really take it.
it
That was
wasn't a
still when
thing.
we were, having the big fights about Chinatown and restriction of travel from international
Yeah.
countries and whatnot.
And we didn't have to wear masks, I don't think, when we bought the car. But the kids all wore. We bought the car on Halloween. So when we went, the kids actually all wore masks anyway because they wanted to wear Halloween costumes. And since we were going to be stuck at a car dealership for the 4th time in a matter of weeks while we waited for them to figure things out, we let the kids wear Halloween costumes. So actually they did wear masks. They were just different kinds. So that was a fun memory, I guess. But like an actual fun memory connected to the pandemic.
I mean, you learned a lot about people.
Yeah.
You definitely learned some people. I was shocked by how head over heels. We had one who, our oldest daughter, had a friend who, before they could come over and play, we had to have all negative COVID tests and proof of it. Where then you had other people who I would not have guessed they were anti-establishmentarianisms, who definitely were the exact opposite end of that spectrum.
I really want those shirts, faith over fear, for everybody.
Right?
Because I do think that fear has driven a lot of people. And, again, as Catholics, you kind of have to believe that God is watching over you and that He's protecting you. And bad things happen, of course.
Of course.
And tragic and traumatic things happen. But it's, and I don't want to say it's hypocritical to be that afraid. But if you truly believe all those things that God is watching over you and protecting you, and then I don't think the fear of this should be so debilitating.
Yep.
And I know that fear is one of those things that you can't always control, and sometimes it's unreasonable, I absolutely hate spiders. But my fear is not so debilitating that I can't, control it with spiders. I know there are people who do, but that's definitely been eye-opening.
I do like one of the fond memories I want to share is one of the times we broke COVID rules, the executive orders. The order said you could have no more than 8 people in your house at one time. We went and visited some friends, so it's 2 families, just two families. That's
yes.
it, 2 families. But totaled, what do we have? 18 people?
Oh, let's see.
Because we had 8 and they have 9. 17 people. Which was, kind of, I use that actually at work. I was talking to someone and they were talking about the restrictions. And I said, well, this is what doesn't make sense. It's 2 families. So whether they had 2 kids or they're 8, 9, or they had 7
They have
kids,
7
kids. It's still just 2 families, so we're just as much risk. We drove in the car together. The people lived in that house together, but by reality is that a state cop pulled in and knocked on the door, we could have been
it's
ticketed.
true. Even if we had people come over for dinner here, just 2 people coming over puts us at the max.
Well, one
Of the
person,
10.
because we had their. We actually had a friend of ours who was the anti-disestablishmentarianism person who he wanted to come visit, which we were glad to have him come visit. And I think the fact that we were then won over the allotted 8 we were legally allowed.
It was 10. I thought it was 10.
It was 8 because
okay.
because I asked about what do you do with that family that's 9 people? Is one kid got to stay
Stay
outside?
somewhere else.
His dad got to get a hotel room during this and.
Well, we know families of 12.
Oh yeah.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
You want somebody to come over and visit? Okay, well, we have to send half the kids away.
Yeah, half the kids got to go somewhere else, and
Some of those rules are silly when you think about them like that. And I know a lot of people don't have more than 2.5 children or whatever.
Right.
But a lot of people do. And some of those rules were, I think, unduly cumbersome might be the way I would word it. So you're punishing large families. Essentially, I mean, that's what happened. And like, it's kind of like the restrictions with the church. Like, well, if you have a child under a certain age, you don't really need to come to mass.
yeah, that was hard when they're like with it. What it was over
Under
five, under five. So we had two who were like, you really don't need to come to mass. You can. We're not going to say anything. Our church.
They didn't do the whole "you can." It was you really don't need to come
you
to
don't
mass.
need to come to mass.
And that's horrible because families really do make the church. And
well, it's those younger kids. That's the ones you want to build these habits and these relationships and this understanding of what it is to be a member of a church.
And there's nothing like the faith of a little child.
Yeah.
Like Gabrielle, when she was little, like just so pure, like just amazing belief and faith. And
Yeah,
even
Gabrielle, who when seeing the priest would be so elated, would have to give him a hug, even if he was in the middle of giving communion. And the first time I laughed. This is pre-pandemic, of course. She gave him a big old hug for the first time, and he didn't know what to do. He didn't know if he was supposed to hug her or bless her or kick her in the butt to get her get her moving.
She just ran down the aisle right to him.
Right to him, gave him a big old hug, and which I could only imagine if they had the shield up. Like, what do you do? What do you right? Got to run around the shield and give a hug real quick. He would have done it. He would have allowed her around the shield. Who knows?
It's just like it's stuff like that. Like that was just difficult, but yeah.
Good enough. Well, this is 47 minutes so far. Probably about an hour once I do all the editing. So any.
It gets longer when you do editing.
Well, there's some intro stuff I have and some extra stuff. So you.
I know you have the intro. I didn't know you had extra.
And there's not much of one. It just flashes you for a farmer.
Oh.
It's probably gonna be a pain in the ass for me to edit this one because they have been when they get longer. But this is kind of a special little edition.
Is there like a time limit that you can't go over?
Not anymore. There used to be on YouTube. You used to only have to have under like 20 minutes or 10 minutes or whatnot. But now they let you have these longer versions. This is for posterity.
So do you break these down?
No,
like
this
break
one won't
it
be.
into
No. I mean, everyone's probably signed off by now, and maybe we'll have grandmas and grandpas and a few other people listen to this one. Of course, whenever I have my wonderful wife, I get a lot of extra views, so got to bring her in more.
Is that really a thing?
That's really a thing. Yeah, people love you. I got subscribers, I was told. I was even.
But that's so funny because I'm the one that's usually like socially awkward.
Not online. People love you online. So anyway, I think we're going to need to sign off. Any last thoughts or feelings or hopes for the future? You want them with COVID specific, of course. This is the COVID special.
Oh, a COVID specific hope for the future. Well, historically, pandemics last about 3 years. I have the sinking suspicion that this one will last an extra year,
Probably.
for our country. But I do see a light at the end of the tunnel. I see people actually hugging again, people who are not related to them. And I see a lot more relaxing around in social situations, a lot more kids interacting again, which is nice. So I do think that it's going to keep going and it's not going to go away. But I think people are learning to get past some of the, I don't know if they were fears or restrictions or maybe just confusion from the beginning because we were told so many different things. And some people are still going off of what they were told at the beginning or what they think personally started to help them the most at the beginning. And so I think we're getting past some of that. And I think that this summer, I think we'll start to really see more normal. We'll start to see some normalcy. I don't think it'll go back right away. I think it'll be years before we get back to what we were. as a country and how comfortable we could be, but I think we're on our way.
I'm hoping we treat this like 9/11. I really hope we don't forget. Don't forget what it means to be prepared, means to be, what was it? It's prepared but not scared, aware but not paralyzed. Because, hopefully now that people have seen what disaster preparedness is and what it can do for us when we practice and ready it, that they don't slash the budgets of all the disaster preparedness folks out there. And that we really do remember that we have it's fragile. What we have is an illusion. This order and this whatnot can be changed on a dime, and we need to be ready for that. And again, not like doomsday prepperish, but at least prepared, at least ready, and at least know and have a plan for when this happens again, because it will. It will happen again, whether it's in 5 years or in another 100 years. It will happen again. So I hope their memories don't fade because they want to block it all. And I hope people do stuff like this, these little videos of I remember, so they can be out there for history. You had one more thing?
I got my fun thing from the pandemic.
Oh, here we go. Let's hear it.
I'll try to keep it quick.
That's a no. We got time.
Keeping rabbits, which is something that we had talked about and stuff. It's been so fun, and the kids love the rabbits, but they understand that they're also a food source and they're a fur source, and then the kids' business. That has been so fun to watch them grow and create it and expand it way beyond what I thought. Like I thought we'd make 3 kinds of jam and they'd get tired of it after the first 3 farmers markets and we'd be done.
Yep.
And then we'd spend the rest of the year eating up the rest of the jam.
That was mine, yep.
But it has taken off, and they have expanded it. They went from just 2 kinds of jam to 8.
8 different types of jams.
And meals in a jar, and we've the hats that they now make, and the girls are learning how to crochet and do all these other things. And so I think that's been so fun.
Yep.
Like, it's been a lot of work, but it's also been a lot of fun. And to see the kids grow in that way, like when a lot of kids now are afraid of socialization, our kids have really they run the table. They do everything themselves, and they socialize so well with all these different people who come to farmers markets. And so I would say that that's my fun memory from the pandemic. Is that experience, keeping rabbits, selling rabbits, and the kids raising them by hand, really. And then, their business where they sell the rabbits and the eggs and everything else that they make and do. So that's I guess my fun one.
There you go.
Is the kids' business and the rabbits, and it's been such a fun learning experience.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. Yeah. No, they definitely have learned economic self-sufficiency, that they can run a business. They can
and it's good skills, knowing how to make jam. I mean, it might be hard in a true situation to find sugar or something, but they know how to now process berries and like actually keep them, process them to the point where they're going to stay good for a long time.
They're going to be good for a long time.
They're not relying on store-bought jam. I don't think we've had store-bought jam other than maybe the occasional thing of apricot for specific jam recipes.
For a very specific recipe. But
we haven't bought store-bought jam in years now. But
well, and really, they knew the process, but this really made them. You're doing the process.
They do everything themselves, so that's been so fun. One, to see them grow in that way, but also just, our shy ones now don't think much of calling out and bringing people over to the table and discussing the different kinds of jams and how they're made. And so I think that's probably my fun memory of the pandemic.
There you go. Well, that's a happy note to end on. So good. Well, thank you for joining me in this video. It was unexpected, but deeply appreciated, of course. Hopefully you stayed warm in the hot seat there.
I was going to say, if you bring out 2 heaters, I might come over.
2 heaters again, we might do it again. Well, perfect. That's something we can look forward to in the future here, bringing back my wife. And hope everyone stays safe out there, stay healthy, and try to do your own little I remember, because it's about that time we start gaining these memories and start putting them out there for all the world to hear and see. And
Or sending comments so you can read them.
comments. We can read them out. What are you doing during this pandemic? We'll read those maybe next time. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, stay safe out there, everyone, and we'll see you on the next one.